Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, Red O'Laughlin here on Talking Heads for the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Today we're on part 2 of 6-part post-pandemic planning for better health. We've all been in this pandemic mode now for a while. We're starting to see it wind down. And I'm guessing probably 2 years realistically that we can say it's probably been put to bed either by the fact that 95, 98% of everybody has already been infected and overcome it, or the disease is relegated to almost that of the flu, or hopefully, and most hopefully, is the fact that of the 130 plus vaccines they're working on out there, there'll be a couple of them that are actually really vaccines and effective. So with that being said, let me see if we can pull up this first slide. And how do I get that? Okay, there we go. And introduction. Red O'Laughlin, USA Global Radio and TV. The primary thing I want to get across today is I'm a researcher. I am not a doctor, never been part of a medical field, pharmaceutical, anything. I research. My first love was chemistry long before I met my wife of 54 years. I research the human body at the cellular level. I look for cause and effect relationships. You get at the cellular level, chemical reactions happen. Sometimes this one produces this one, produces that one, produces that one, and then all of a sudden you have a problem. Well, if you want to stop the cascade from happening, there are things that can be done. Sometimes just slow it down, sometimes stop it. And if you can get in those modes of optimizing the things that you really need for your health, then that's what we want to do. So that's what I have been doing. I write about it. I speak about it. My blog site, red.olaughlin.com, has almost 1,500 blogs. Literally almost every one of them has to do with health and wellness. My niche is longevity. I have a couple of books that I've written in that area. But so we're talking now about post-pandemic planning. What do we do? What's critical? Where do we start? Is there any real cost associated with it, whether it's money or time? And probably more importantly, for what we need to look at is, are the things that we're doing aligned with the goals and the goals that we have? Is that really the true goal that we want to have? That's going to be down the road a little ways, but let's go ahead and jump in. And it's interesting. I take a look at these slides every week. The slides are the exact same size, font, everything, but somewhere in the transition between putting them up for a view on TV. Sometimes the slides grow like this. Sometimes they shrink. This one shrunk. Doesn't matter. We'll get through it. But realistically, there are so many places to start. If you just went ahead and did a Google search, what do professionals think is important for post-pandemic health? And they're going to say exercise and diet, and reduce your toxins, and make sure you're having fiber, both your there's two different kinds of fiber, absorbable and non-absorbable, your sleep, just on and on and on and on, sunshine, weight, your mind, your healthy fats, just on and on and on. So we're going to take and break these things down a little bit and dive deeper into some of these things. And, for me, where would I start? That's probably the question that I need to answer first. And I need to look at, where do I need to concentrate my efforts? Well, I know I'm going to age. So what are the causes of aging? Well, in my book on aging, Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging, the two things that to me are the primary drivers of age is your human growth hormone production, which as a toddler is just overwhelming. But you have to think about it. That is the hormone that controls everything else going on in the body. That's our growth. But as you get into your 20s and 40s and 60s, all of a sudden you're going downhill. And by the time you get into your 70s, you maybe make 10% of what you used to make as a teenager. Well, there are ways that we can increase that very easily. super easily. And so if you get those hormone levels back up high again, a lot of issues that you have with aging have a tendency to disappear because that human growth hormone is there to fight off some of those things. Another issue is your telomere length. At the end of each DNA, you have the spiral, double spiral DNA. At the end, there is a little caplet at the end, just like the end of your shoelace, a little plastic thing. Every time that DNA divides into two cells, you lose a little bit of that caplet. And as such, that telomere, it depends on how much you lose as to how old you'll get or how old that cell will get. And nutrition, exercise, sleep, there are several other factors out there, but they affect both your human growth hormone and they affect your telomere length, which in the big scheme of things affects your health, but more importantly, affects your health as you're aging. So when you get up there into your 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, that's when you really want to have good solid telomere length left because it's a reduction each time that the telomere, each time that the cell divides. But you also want to have high levels of human growth hormone. Now, so you might ask a question, what about genetics? Well, genetics on a good day might be a 5% problem. There might be a few genes that are more than 5%, but a lot of genes can be controlled epigenetically. A gene is just like a light switch. You turn it on or you turn it off. And you turn it on, it activates. You can just as easily turn that gene off. And a lot of the things that control the epigenetics are the lifestyle choices we make with regard to the foods we eat, our toxins, our stress levels, everything that we're going to be talking about here in the rest of this show today. And I'm not sure we're going to get to the very end of it, but we'll pick up whatever we have left over in the next show. But those are where we need to be. And so I look at, okay, I have lifestyle choices, I have other things to consider. So really, where would I start? I want to start someplace where I'm going to have an immediate effect, something that is going to slow things down that need to be slowed, but I don't want to take a whole lot of time and money to do it. So I would start with something that is going to be part of my life every hour from now on: inflammation, chronic low-level cellular inflammation. This is where disease starts. 99% of all disease starts at the cellular level. When it starts, it gets a little bit of inflammation caused by free radicals. The free radicals get there, they rip off electrons, it causes another free radical. So you got a kind of a cascading effect. Well, if you have enough antioxidants, it has a tendency to quell that little storm. And when you can keep everything under control, you never get to that next level where the inflammation's out of control and you're in oxidative stress. Okay. So we need our antioxidants, but before we even get that far, if you don't know where you are, how are you going to get to where you want to be? Standard Alice in Wonderland question. The test that I use is called CRP, C-reactive protein. When your body starts to build up inflammation, the body actually produces a protein called C-reactive protein. It won't tell you where in the body there's inflammation. It will just tell you a macro level, okay, your body has more than it needs or your body has nothing. When you take the test, ideally you would like it to come back zero. Then you're in good shape all the way around. However, sometimes it'll come back 1 or 2 or 3 or 15 or 30 or 60 or whatever. You want it as low as possible. Ideally, you would like it under 5. In most cases, if you for really good health, you want it under 3. And the closer you can get it to 0, I think the last couple of times I had mine measured, it was right around 0.25 to 0.5. So as close to 0, I think I've had one test where they couldn't measure it. Regardless, you want your body as low in inflammation as possible because that's where all disease starts. And if you're starting to have a problem, maybe you have a cancer starting, maybe you have a gallbladder issue, maybe you have a kidney problem, they're going to create inflammation. And so from a purely analytical perspective, if you have something going on in your body and you don't know it, this is going to be a really good, fast way to see something. You don't need your doctor's permission to do this. You just go down to a local lab, Google cheap CRP, inexpensive CRP test near me. And you're probably going to find in a lot of cases, you can get that CRP test for under $15. I did a check here yesterday and there's quite a few places around where I live. You just kind of show up, walk in the door, you give me a little bit of your blood, and a day or two later, you get the results. But the thing about the CRP is that it's indicative of something is going on. So if you're down low, okay, fine. We're in good shape. You're right there on track. But if it's high, then you may need to go in and see your doctor. Say, hey, I got 20 on my CRP. He may want to do some more tests. You get a family history. Where have other place? What in your family is a problem? If it's heart, if it's lung, whatever it may happen to be, you need to start looking because now you can catch it early. A lot of times we don't even know we have a problem because even if we wanted to go find out where it is, there's not enough increase in something to say, hey, you got a problem with your kidney. But as things get bigger, the cells start to grow more and more. Now we actually have a tumor. And if you wanted to go find it, you probably couldn't because it's still small enough, but it's there. And so the CRP test, I think, is probably one of the most important tests you can take. It's one of the ones that I add every year for my annual physical. But CRP, definitely, that is the place to start. Okay. What is one of those things we do every day? Well, we eat, we kind of walk around, we sleep, we stress out, we watch TV. We do a lot of things every day, but I think you want to start with your diet. And the diet assessment is what are we really looking at in our diet? Now, if I'm going to mimic uh, my CRP test, I want a body that's generally alkaline. Now, what does that mean? If you measure on a scale, what's called pH, little p, capital H, zero, actually, 0 to 14. 7 is neutral. And 7 should be like tap water, but that used to be just absolutely nothing either way. But you add a little bit of acid to it, it becomes acidic. You add a little bit of alkaline to it, it becomes more basic. And the foods we eat, the things we do, causes our body's environment, our whole body, to change. And it's a very easy thing to measure. Again, measure where are you today, and now you have a direction to go into. So if you're measuring and it's coming out 5.7, 6.0, that's pretty acidic for your body. If it's coming out 7.6, that's great. That's really good because what happens in the body at 7.4, your blood has a pH. That 7.35 to 7.45. That's the range it lives in. If it's forced out of that range, it's going to leach calcium from the bones in order to maintain the pH. Now, leaching calcium from the bones is not a good deal. We have a lot of problems down with aging, brittle bones, fractures, all sorts of things, osteoporosis. So as you track your pH, we want to get our bodies in an alkaline mode. Well, things that cause our bodies to be alkaline are fruits and vegetables. Everything else in our world causes it to be acidic. Proteins, fats, carbohydrates, just breathing, thinking, exercising, everything else we do causes our body to be acidic. If you are increasing your level of fruits and vegetables, it's going to neutralize that acid and then gradually increase the alkalinity of the body. Now, why is that good? Because as a lot of oncologists have found out over time, cancers don't do well in alkaline bodies. A lot of disease does not do well in an alkaline body. You need an acidic environment for those cancer cells, for any kind of disease to really thrive. And when you take that away from them, you take away the carbohydrates, the blood sugar, you take away everything that they love, that they live on, all of a sudden you make it very difficult for disease to continue to escalate in your body. So it's very, very important that we know where we are. So if you know your CRP is very low, you know your pH is above 7.4, hey, we're in a really good position. But if your CRP is 10 and your pH is 6.5, we have a couple places we can aim for. And those are things that we're trying to do with this getting started. We want to know where we're at and what we can do. So for under $10, pH strips, you just touch them to your tongue. There's a little color code there. You line it up. Oh, okay, there's 7.0. I used to do mine every night before I went to bed, every morning when I got up, kind of had an idea of the foods I ate yesterday, what's going on in my world, as to where my pH was. And I could pretty much keep it under control. And then once you know where you're at after 20, 30 days of measuring this thing, okay, fine. What I'm doing is right. I don't need to measure it twice a day. I can measure it every other day and just be on the lookout. Now, CRP tests, probably don't want to do that more than once a month because it does take a while for the body to adjust. So as such, the CRP and pH are definitely the places to start. Okay, what else can we assess about our diet? One of the things is, well, how often do we eat? Are we fasting at all? Fasting, whether it's intermittent, meaning 12, 15, 18, 20 hours a day we're fasting, or whether we do an extended fast. Every month I do a 72-hour fast. It usually turns into 100 plus hours, but I do that for a specific reason. That is to basically reset my immune system back to zero. When you fast for more than 72 hours, your body reassesses everything that's going on and essentially starts chunking, getting rid of any DNA, any cells that are not 100%. It's going into the long stage of starvation, and it doesn't want to be carrying excess baggage. So fasting to me is a reset of my uh, immune system. If you go a little bit beyond that to 5 days, 120 hours, then you start to look at resetting your pancreas, which addresses a lot of issues with insulin. But fasting is good. Fasting also increases your human growth hormone. So if you go on a 24-hour fast, your human growth hormone increases about 1,000%. So if you're down there in that 10% range and you bump it up, you're now back in that range, probably where you were as a teenager. So it's really, really good, that fasting. Now, high intensity exercise will also increase human growth hormone, but not to the same level that fasting is. Fasting is the easiest way. Now you say some people are hypoglycemic, they have to have 6 meals a day. That's something you really need to take up with your doctor. I'm not a physician. I can't tell you what to do. All I can do is make you aware of something, provide education, and then you have questions that, okay, this guy on the TV or podcast said this and this. Go talk to your doctor, because they're the people that need to make that recommendation. But I do not recommend eating 4, 5, 6 meals a day. I think 1 meal a day is fine, 2 at most. You really don't need more than that. When we wake up in the morning, our bodies are dehydrated. The first thing we do is go to the bathroom. We dehydrate ourselves just a little bit more, but we don't necessarily drink a lot of fluids first thing off the bat. Yeah, you might have some coffee or something like that, but it's not replenishing that 10, 12, 15 ounces of fluid that you lost overnight. The whole purpose on that intake of food is to get you a certain calorie level. So your caloric intake, how many calories a day are you eating? Well, if you listen to nutritionists, they're going to tell you need 15 calories per day to maintain your weight. So if you're 100 pounds, you need 1,500 calories per day. But in reality, that's not true. It's a I don't say it's a myth. I don't think it's a myth. I think it's to some level misinformation, because yeah, you can live on that 15 calories per pound, but if you want to thrive, go to 10 calories per pound. It's called caloric restriction. When they put animals on caloric restriction, they about 30% reduction in their caloric intake. They live 20, 30, 40, 50% longer in good health. So the amount of calories you're putting in is one thing. The other thing that's super critical is the balance of the nutrition you're getting. So the more balance you can get with the less calories, that's probably the most ideal situation when you're assessing your diet. The time of the day you eat, if you eat first thing in the morning, fine. Now you have the rest of the day, you're burning it all off. Good. But if you're going to eat 8 o'clock at night and you're going to be in bed right after the 10 o'clock news and you have a glass or two of wine, not necessarily the best thing to do, but it's something that many of us do. That's part of our habit. If you look at the Eastern culture, they'll say, hey, breakfast is, eat it if you want. It's not important. Western culture says breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Well, yeah, maybe, but it depends on what your goal is. If you're just breaking your fast by having something to eat, fine. But are you dehydrated or are you really hungry? Is it a habit that you have to have something every time you get out? Now, years ago, when they used to go out and chop down trees for 2 hours before sunrise or whatever, you needed the extra morning breakfast because you needed the calories. Nowadays, you're driving in a car to work or you're going upstairs to your office. We're not necessarily in the same environment that we used to be in. So the time of the day is really, really critical with regard to what we're eating. If you're on a 18-hour and 8 and 6 hour, 6 hours of eating, 18 hours of not eating, then you need to kind of figure out where that intermittent fast start and end. So if you're going to say, I'm going to end my fast at 6 p.m., back up, 10 a.m. in the morning, or 12 noon, I guess. 12 noon would be your 12 noon to 6 p.m. would be the time of the day you eat. So your first meal would be your lunch, your last meal would be your dinner, and that gives you plenty of time to digest that food before it has an impact on your quality of sleep. The source of foods. Are you eating organic foods? Are you eating stuff out of cans, out of jars, out of boxes. All those things have a factor in how we're actually eating everything we're doing. So the source is very, very critical. Uh, 5 years ago, I was probably not eating near as many, well, maybe 6 years ago, because when my wife came down with breast cancer, we started looking at eating more healthy. We found out that I'm eating less, but I'm eating higher quality foods. And before inflation hit, I was probably eating it for about the same price. So when I go to the store, most of my time is spent in the fresh food area. I look at meats that don't have any preservatives, added colors, and, injections. I look for the freshest, wholesomest, non-GMO foods that I can buy, and that's what I specialize. That's everything I get. Now, yeah, will I get a jar of this or a can of that? Yeah, it's not necessarily everything, but that's where I want to focus most of my time. Okay, what about fiber? I mean, if I'm eating something and it's all mashed potato and gravy and meat, am I getting the fiber I need? Fiber keeps everything going through the system real well. Well, I can tell you that from my experience with Atkins, I lost 7, 8 inches, probably 46 pounds, kept it off for about 6 years. I was living overseas in Europe the last couple of years of that. And with your eating nothing but protein and fat, and you're really eliminating all the carbohydrates, the problem arises the fact that there's no fiber there to force it through the system. So you end up with uh, constipation, and that is not something that you want to have. So fiber keeps everything going through there. You want a healthy gut, so your probiotics are again something that you should have. There and prebiotics are what feeds the healthy biome that we have in our gut. I tell people change their plate size. I've switched over to a not a dinner plate, a salad plate, probably 5, 6 years ago, and one serving only. Whatever's on that plate, that's it. So that's the size that I have. It cuts down automatically on the total quantity, and it allows me to standardize. This is what I have. And if you really listen to your brain, somewhere around halfway through that meal, your brain's going to tell you, "Hey, I'm fine. I really don't need more food than that." And that kind of adjusts how much the next time you're putting on a plate. And like most of us, we don't want to waste food, so we don't want to throw it away. So we just go ahead and eat it. But there is a time in there when your hormones are talking to each other, and your ghrelin and your leptin and your adiponectin, all of those things are in alignment, and they say, "Okay, hey, you have just enough right now. You can stop, and we're fine." But we blow right through that because we never hear it. But it's there, and if you start paying attention to, am I full? That will kind of adjust how much food you have on the plate itself. Um, Labels, super critical. If you're going to do nothing else to be healthy, you need to become a master in reading labels. One of the first things you need to know is how many servings are in whatever I have. If I have a package of this and it says there's 12 servings per package, and they're not individually packaged, they're just all part of a massive, like a big bowl of cereal. There may be 12 servings in that big. Well, if you don't know that what the serving size is, and say serving size 1/2 cup or 1 cup or what, because every time you increase, let's say you're end up, okay, I really have 3 serving size. Well, that's 3 times all the numbers on the back of the label. That is, if you're going to be healthy, you really need to know what you're eating. And more so than just the basics that are in there, but you need to know all the rest of the extra added ingredients are there, because that's where your toxins and other things show up. Hidden sugars. There are dozens of ways of telling you that you have a sugar or gluten, and it'll never say the word sugar or gluten. It's just they've become real masters at hiding that. But the sugars make everything taste so good. The gluten makes everything taste so creamy, so just luxurious. That taste that you love to have. I mean, just it's amazing. And you add some other things in there too. It's just the creaminess. Those are the extra added ingredients that make foods so tasty that you can't just have just one. So understand that gluten also has an effect in our gut. There are a number of experts out there that say, yes, it does, no, it doesn't. I have a tendency to side with the people to say that gluten has an effect on a molecule in our gut, and it's called zonulin. Zonulin's whole purpose in life, it's a protein. it opens up microscopic pores in the inner intestinal wall that allows our nutrients to go through. It passes through our immune system into our bloodstream, and that's how we get all these nutrients to the rest of our body. But in the presence of gluten, it overgrows and you end up with huge holes, and a lot of undigested material ends up overcoming the immune system. And now you end up with an introduction to 130, 140 different autoimmune diseases. Over time, it doesn't happen overnight, but you do this day in, day out, over time, there's a problem. Now, casein is another one that you have a problem with because gluten and casein are almost mirror images of each other. And for American dairy, they look very similar. So people who have a gluten issue tend to have a dairy issue. Now, if you get your dairy products from Europe, it's a different molecule and generally don't have a problem with that. But gluten and casein are two big issues that if you're going to start cutting down on something, read the labels and see what they are. High fructose corn syrup, terrible sugar, especially for the liver. It just really wreaks havoc with the liver. It's almost a poison. Alcohol for the body is almost considered a poison. So when you're looking at these things, the body has to stop what it's doing, take care of that poison, process it all the way through. So if you're having a meal 8 o'clock at night, it's a big meal, a couple glasses of wine, you're going to bed 2 hours later, that wine has stopped all the processing of your digestion. A couple hours after you're in bed, you're asleep because you feel good, and then all of a sudden you might wake up. What's going on? The digestive process has started back again. And it's just the way our bodies work. So if you can eat earlier, don't put your alcohol there with the main food at night. You're going to not compound a problem that could be there. Chewing food, Fletcherization. I think it's Harold Fletcher. I can't remember Fletcher's first name. He was a big proponent back in the 20s and 30s of chewing your food. I think 32 times was the minimum. You chew your food almost to consistency of baby food. And when you do that, the saliva combines with everything. It gets down into your stomach. The digestive acid now allows you to really and truly extract what you need from your food. So it just really makes your whole body a whole lot better, efficient, because you're getting the stuff out of that. I will caution people, those people who have a liquid with their meal, your digestive acids are being diluted by that liquid you're taking in. Now, you take a sip of something, fine. But if you're sitting there and you have a 10, 12, 15 ounce glass of whatever liquid you have with your meal, that is diluting your stomach acid, so you're not getting the efficiency of your digestive process to work. So the stuff is going through, but it's ending up in your intestines and basically going to end up in the toilet. You're not getting the benefit from that. Another problem we have getting started is many times that we've talked to ourselves, I'm 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds overweight. I start a diet, I fail. Our subconscious mind now has a problem because every time that I try this thing, I fail. The number one prime directive of the subconscious mind is to not let you hurt yourself. So it views failure as hurting yourself, and it's not going to allow you to fail. It's not going to allow you to hurt itself, so it's not going to let you be successful with the diet, because if you fail, then that's something that it's counterintuitive. The mindset says, this is really healthy for me, but because I failed so many times, it's not going to let me succeed. There are ways around that. We'll talk about that down the road. Probably, I think it's worth spending a little bit of time on, because understanding the subconscious mind really makes our post-pandemic health makes it much easier. Toxins, and I'm looking at our time. I think we're probably going to wrap up things here on this slide. We'll pick everything up next week on another one. But toxins, we have toxins from dry cleaning, from the soap that we use, water softener, everything in our foods that are added. Toxins are all over the place. Our liver takes care of them, but if we're eating 3, 4, 5 times a day, we never allow our liver time enough to really rest from cleaning everything out. So again, reading our labels, knowing what's there, our household cleaning agents, shampoo, underarm deodorant, all those things. I use coconut oil for underarm deodorant. I use coconut oil for just anything dealing with the skin. I just find it to be a very healthy, easy thing to use. But toxins, something, again, awareness, and there's so many different kinds out there. If you look at what Europe has done with toxins, they've taken and thrown out way over 1,000 toxins. That the same products in the United States that we sell in Europe, they don't have them. but in the United States, we have them. Why can't they have both? I don't know. I'm sure it has something to do with follow the money. But in Europe, that same package of this is devoid. It'll maybe have 5 ingredients. In the United States, it'll have 15 ingredients. So toxins is a big, big deal in a post-pandemic world for our health. Last time I'm going to touch on right now, just very, very briefly, is hydration and fats. Hydration, something that most of us have problems with. If we get too far down the deal, we start having problems with everything else in our life. Hydration, from the first time you get up in the morning, at least 8 ounces of water before you have anything. Your coffee is probably a good way to start the day. Keep hydrated through the day. And the fats, even though the fats, yeah, they do add to acidic levels, but you want healthy fats. You want your omega-3, your omega-6. Omega-9s are not essential like the omega-3 and 6 are, but it comes from olive oil. And it's a good fat. I like medium chain triglycerides like your red palm oil or your coconut oil. Those are fats that, even though they're saturated, they're plant fat, and they actually help the body significantly. And if you look at the countries in the world that have the coconut oil or the red palm oil, their history of heart disease is almost non-existent. So with that, I'm going to jump to, let's go to here, we're on slide 7. So let's go ahead and just jump here toward the end and wrap things up. Okay. Next week, we're going to do a deeper dive, but actually in reality, we're going to finish up the slides that I didn't cover today. So we're going to continue on our getting started. A lot of areas there that are open. And I would expect people start on something that's easy, something that you know you can do for the next 21, 30 days without a problem. A salad plate, does it get any easier than that? Okay, I can be reached at red.olaughlin.com. That's red like the color, R-E-D, Olaughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N. So red.olaughlin.com. All of my contact information is there. My book, Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging, goes into the 2 primary causes of aging and what you can do about it. You can accelerate or decelerate your aging processes. Both of these books are available on Amazon or my website. The Joy of Ageless Health, I go into the 6 or 7 things: your stress, your toxins, radiation, inflammation, infection, diet, expectations, all those things that cause disease to grow in the body and what you can do about it. So those are 2 books that I strongly recommend. And at this point in time, our Talking Head program is over for today, and we will pick up next week on slide 8 and continue on getting started. Again, on the USA Global TV and Radio Network Talking Heads program, this is Red O'Laughlin signing off.